Hey, I'm Waylon from the Zombie Star, and along with trying to catch up with Endgame and Alan Wake 2, we all started playing Baldur's Gate, which is the biggest reason why I haven't been neglecting the channel like I have been. But let's see what I've finally been able to read in This Week in Comics. Saga, issues number 64, 65, and this awesome cover, issue number 66. For a title that's on issue number 66, it's really difficult to kind of recap everything, introduce the title if you're new to Saga, but this epic is really amazing. Something I think, any comic book reader or any fan of just kind of epic fantasy stories, Saga is really for you. In the story's current place, or at least for issue 66, I know it's more issues have released from this, but I'm just caught up to issue 66. We're still following main character Alana, who has been just traversing the galaxy, simply just trying to raise her children, all the while living the life of a wanted war criminal, constantly on the run from deadly assassins, gang organizations, and of course law enforcement. And for 66 issues for Alana and the group, we have just seen a string of defeats, victories, tragedies. The story is still focused on her daughter, Hazel, and how she perceives the events and the conditions of her life. Issue 64 through 66 refocuses its attention to some of Alana's companions, very powerful magic-wielding companions that find themselves pursuing a very dangerous mission of vengeance. And in fashion that only Saga can do, is perceived through the eyes of this child, as Hazel is also struggling with her ideas of loss and vengeance. And in a very powerful way, shows that vengeance is a very self-serving, selfish act that only causes more pain and chaos. And in a great way, suggests that true power and true strength lies in those that can forgive. If you follow This Week in Comics or the Zombie Star, you would have heard me say that Saga is just an absolutely beautiful looking book, just an artistic design, and scope. Staples and Vaughn have brought a beautiful world for Saga that they themselves have mentioned would not like to see translated into any kind of live action, as the art approach and the artistic style, given the art approach and the artistic style, would be quite a task. If you're reading Saga, let me know how much you love it. If you're not reading Saga, this is something I would really give a try from the beginning. It's really a lot of fun to read. What If Carnage Dark issue number 1 is also a one-shot, something that I really enjoyed reading this week. Even for a what if issue, this is pretty out there, as what if issues typically do significantly alter timelines, change roles for some beloved characters, and in this case, one of my favorite Spider-Verse villains, Carnage, where we see Cletus Cassidy, his son Clayton Cassidy, and Dread Dormammu all thrown into a really weird story about a time-traveling, power-giving super tree. It's a what-if issue. During a botched escape attempt, Carnage stumbles across the space-time tree that also is encapsulating his son, Cortland Cassidy. It's a what-if issue. It doesn't have to make any sense, and this what-if does not disappoint. Coming head-to-head with the Dread Dormammu, Carnage What If Dark is a really absurd, but very entertaining and exciting look into one of my favorite supervillains. John McCrea and Mike Spicer take on a very stylized look for this what if issue, a very manic, messy look for the comic book, which I feel is very important. One, it being a what if issue is manic and messy to begin with, but also it's appropriate for the character Carnage, who is just as manic and chaotic just by nature. What If Dark Carnage issue number 1 is a one-shot, as it tells a whole story in this one issue, and probably will not branch off into any other stories, but I'm really not sure about that. Usually these what if issues are just one-shots. But the biggest reason why I did pick up this comic book is because of the cover, which is a homage to Mark Bagley's Amazing Spider-Man number 361, which is probably one of my favorite covers, and this kind of pays homage to that cover. And just had to pick it up just for this look. It is pretty awesome, but still found the story to be absurd but absolutely entertaining. Star Wars Visions issue number 1, also a one-shot. Guess this week I've been reading comic books that have also been translated into Disney shows with What If and Visions. This has been really awesome. Here's the thing about this book though, I've had it for like a year and just barely read it. This book released in January of 23 at the start of this year, and kind of has been sitting along with my other comic books. I had mentioned before in other videos how when I'm organizing or reorganizing my comic books, I will find issues that I have purchased but just kind of lost track of in my own collection. Finally sat down with Star Wars Visions, and this is an awesome, not just a story, or really a prequel story to what we saw in the first season of Star Wars Visions, but an absolutely beautiful book. Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus is an anthology series that tells independent stories within the world of Star Wars, but uses different visual approaches and different storytellers for each episode. Star Wars Visions from Marvel Comics focuses on, I believe, the first episode of season 1, which is the Ronin, a wanderer along with his droid that is on a journey and constantly comes into conflict with various different dangers, but of course the most dangerous being the Sith. This one shot focuses on the Ronin and his droid and events leading up to what we know happens in episode 1 of season 1 of Vision. We get a little bit more story and background on the character, the Ronin, but also on the lore itself, as it mentions a great war that has taken place before any of the events that we've seen in the first episode. We also get some really cool events and some classic Star Wars action, as we just get to see how badass this Ronin looks with his flame-like red saber. But one of the most exciting things, and really what drew me into this book, is that it is written and illustrated by Takashi Okazaki. And if that name sounds familiar, he is also the illustrator and creator of Afro Samurai. As this book is just beautifully illustrated and really seems to be just part of that world. Being a fan of both anime and manga, it is really exciting to see when Japanese artists take Western concepts like Marvel and Star Wars and kind of blend it and really give it their own personal look. And Star Wars Visions, specifically the Ronin, is a beautiful example of that, with absolutely amazing character models, but also bringing the snow-covered feudal Japan to life in these pages is something that I really enjoyed. Star Wars Visions, a one-shot. If you're a fan of anything that this book just has, it's a must-read. Blade from Marvel Comics issue number 3, issue number 4, and my favorite cover so far of this series, issue number 5. It has not been too many this week in comics since the last time we spoke about Blade from Marvel Comics, as we see our favorite Daywalker going up against his formidable foe yet, the Adana, a world-ending entity that is just dead set on destroying all reality as we know it. Blade, along with its ex and a young cultist, the group find themselves easily outnumbered and outpowered, are yet still determined to destroy this entity, and are currently on a trek to acquire a very powerful weapon of biblical proportions. As mentioned, the Adana is one of Blade's most dangerous, powerful foes, to where he is forced to ally himself with a very well-known Avenger, when usually we are used to Blade taking on his enemies all on his own. And in his desperation is forced to do one of the most unlikeliest things that we ever see Blade ever do. And issue 5 ends with one hell of a cliffhanger. As mentioned before, Marvel's Blade is a really fun exploration and expansion into the world and lore of Blade, as we see him face off against very powerful entities, demons and godlike creatures, and wield weapons that are spiritually enchanted, when we're used to seeing him more conventional or technology-based weapons. Still, issues 3 through 5 give us some classic Blade badassery and pays homage to the films, as it includes the mouth-opening or jaw-opening vampires that we've seen maybe in Blade 2 and 3. I'm not really sure exactly when they came out, but they are included in a small part of this comic book, which I thought was really badass. Casagrande and Diaz are giving us some beautiful visuals, where I feel that the visual approach is leaning more towards a fantasy look for the book, instead of your traditional horror that we're used to for a Blade comic. I am absolutely loving this in every single way, and as we all eagerly anticipate Mahershala Ali's rendition of the famous character and its return back to the big screen, Marvel's Blade is really good, and some really good content in the meantime. This is the cover for issue number 5, and yes, I don't know if you guys missed it, but the cover for issue number 4 does show Howard the Duck getting bitten by a vampire. Just thought that was really cool. And that is all we have for this week in comics. If you guys are reading any of these, let me know what you think of them, and let me know what you guys are reading this week in comics. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.